Welcome to the Startempire Wire Founders Podcast, where we make entrepreneurial founders a top priority. Each episode features risk takers, business builders, community shapers, institutional and government supporters in our local startup ecosystem. Tune in weekly to hear all about what's happening with the movers and the shakers of Southern California's Inland Empire and beyond. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Founders Podcast, here where we love to give you the information about who's who in the Inland Empire. Today, we are with Peter Surowski of Brain Jar, web development company. Why would you put it? Brain Jar LLC?
Yeah. Well, I just usually call it Brain Jar. So
Brain Jar. So Peter has been actually a part of the WordPress community, good friend for a long time. He's been on the team. We've been trying to push tech in this region, but I want Peter to introduce himself, tell us who he is, what he's about, and we're going to talk a little bit about where he grew up and all that as well. So welcome to the Founders Podcast, Peter. Tell us who you are.
Sure. Thanks, Various. I'm the CTO of Brain Jar, which is a web design, development, and maintenance company that focuses on DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I run it with my wife. My wife's the CEO, and I'm the CTO. Awesome. We're a small boutique agency. We have there's 5 of us, so we have 3 employees plus me and my wife.
Awesome. Okay, so Peter, what's the place where you grew up, and just what led you to the place where you wanted to actually become an entrepreneur? Because I know you do a little bit more than just web development. You might want to mention and drop in a few other entrepreneurial endeavors that you've been a part of. Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, like our main business is Brain Jar, and so I grew up in Anaheim, moved to the Inland Empire when I was young, and I noticed when I went to junior college is when I decided I wanted to be a web developer, because at first I wanted to be an artist, and then back then, not to date myself, but the web was starting to become taken seriously. Back then it was just like a little like toy. And so I said, oh, you know what? It seems like this is going to be exploding. So let me get on this. And I learned web development, and I've been doing it ever since. We started back in the day when I was 20, so over 2 decades ago, and we've grown since then. I also do real estate investment, and I also do WP Code Camp, which is a boot camp that teaches WordPress development.
Awesome. Anaheim. And then where'd you go to college at again?
Cal State Fullerton and UCI.
Cal State Fullerton and UCI. Cool. So you've been involved in organizing, helping organize, and also teach at code camps as well. What's going on with that? Yeah.
Well, I used to teach code camps for, I did one for University of Texas. I've done one for University of Washington several times.
Nice.
But I always felt like it was weird that nobody ever taught WordPress development, considering that about 40% of all the websites on the planet run on WordPress. And so I said, you know what, let me start my own boot camp where we're going to actually teach full stack development, but we're not going to use some like not very widely used system like Angular or whatever. We're going to do WordPress, which is really going to get you a job. So,
well, okay, so that is debatable, right? I mean, a lot of people are gonna say WordPress. Come on, man, you should be using something else. JavaScript, Angular, React. This is my tech side showing, but WordPress. Really? Do you believe in it that much?
Well, we have like huge organizations that use WordPress on a regular basis. I've never worked for a company that doesn't use WordPress at some point in their web properties. I mean, for example, Press Enterprise used to have a lot of their blogs on WordPress. University of Redlands also had a lot of sort of like microsites on WordPress. Fullerton College runs on WordPress. Cal Poly Pomona has a lot of properties on WordPress. Just every client I've ever had. I used to work for the state of California. They have a lot of WordPress.
Yeah.
So, it's for anybody who thinks that it's like a Wix or a Weebly, it's not.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people nowadays understand, the weight of WordPress within the sphere of the web. It runs 40% of the web. And Peter, I met Peter, the first time did I meet you at the meetup group? Was that the first time that I met you? Or did we meet before that or somewhere else?
I feel like it probably was at the WordPress meetup group. So I started going to the developer one.
The developer group. Maybe loved it.
7 years ago, I think.
So me and Peter met at the meetup group. Peter has always been very solid developer, man. Coming to the developer group, you presented a few times. Did you ever present at the developer group?
I presented once.
Once, okay, cool. Yeah, but also Peter was a big connection with WordCamp. He helped us to organize the WordPress conference here in Riverside, which is, he's always just been a strong member of the WordPress community. So I can see, the need of this WordPress bootcamp that he's running as well. But on the commercial side, the benefit of WordPress for a person's business, like, what would you say are those benefits?
Oh, there's tons. I mean, like I've had a lot of clients come to me who make the mistake of building a website or having somebody build a website on some sort of like pay to play platform like WordPress. Not WordPress. Like Weebly or something.
Weebly,
or Wix or Squarespace.
Yep.
And they don't understand the difference between open source and all these SaaS software as a service kind of things.
Yes.
And whenever they have run into problems or need to extend, then these companies try to gobble up their wallets. For example, I have a client who's a training, sort of like a nonprofit, professional training company. And they need they need more functionality out of their purchase process, but they're on Shopify, which is one of those pay to play, platforms. And so it's like, you got to get off there and get on WordPress. Actually, they are on WordPress, but they could be on WooCommerce, which is also open source.
Yes.
They made the mistake of building WordPress that bounces out to
this was the client Shopify. You were telling me about, that their products link to products on Shopify.
Yeah.
And they don't have the WooCommerce. Okay. Yes. So if you're listening to this podcast right now, take note of what Peter is talking about, because this is one of the things you want to think about. If you're a business and you're trying to get a website and you're going with WordPress, what is the right path for something like that, Peter?
Well, I think all those things that I'm kind of poo-pooing right now are fine if you're just a small business.
Yes.
If you're selling T-shirts, if you're in a band and you want to sell your CD or your T-shirts or something, Shopify's great. But if you're a serious business that needs to do things like track referral data, or like assemble user information, or like 1,000 other functions that larger larger businesses, larger organizations need to do, you can't do that on these. But you can't do it on these pay to play platforms such as Shopify and the like, Wix and Weebly and blah blah blah. You need to own the code, and you
gotta own the code.
Yeah. And so you need to go with WordPress or some competitor, Magento or something.
Yeah.
Plug in WooCommerce and you're all set. You can do anything as long as you have a developer.
Okay, so a solid WordPress developer and development company can help a person do almost anything they need, right?
Oh, anything a website can physically do or possibly do, yeah.
The Inland Empire startup ecosystem industry is tremendously fragmented. A few top-tier hubs, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, are well covered by media, events, and data platforms. Finding reliable information relevant to startups or the tech industry in the Inland Empire is extremely difficult. As a result, startups can't scale fast enough. Investors are having a hard time finding the right deals, and corporates can't find the right companies to partner with for their innovation activities. Startempire Wire, the leading Inland Empire startup publication, is providing the Inland Empire startup ecosystem with the most accurate, engaging business and financial data, events, and news. Our reach of entrepreneurs, C-level executives, angels, VC investors, startup employees, key management at innovative corporates, and big tech is the solution for your B2B or B2C needs. As we build out our platform, we're looking for partners. This is your opportunity to get in on the ground level. If you're looking to align yourself with the local and growing startup and tech ecosystem of the Inland Empire, we have created the platform to get your name noticed and the opportunity for you to grow the recognition of your brand. Contact us today for availability and pricing options. We look forward to our partnership with you. Yeah. So tell us about your journey to where you are right now. I know you started freelancing. You went to school. You taught some code camps. Let's fill in the rest of the any blanks that we maybe have missed out.
Yeah, sure. So 20 years ago or 22 years ago, I started started freelancing. And after a few years, I was WordPress did not exist back then, so I was using just sort of like these consumer web page builders. None of them around anymore. Whenever
GeoCities,
stuff like that. Yeah, or like Yahoo used to have a website builder.
I remember GeoCities, man. That was cool.
Yeah, and there are a handful of others, but and then I just wrote the raw HTML. And then CSS actually wasn't even really out yet. So.
Oh, that's right. Well, what year was this?
We're talking like the year 2000. I think CSS had just come out, but nobody used it.
Right.
It was a few years into it where I kind of like started using CSS kind of, all right, I'll use it. Right. And I went, whoa, it's so cool.
CSS was very brand new to like the world. I mean, I remember when it first came out, like, what is this, No, but it was amazing, and it was a revolution.
It was so easy to just write it into the HTML code. Then you just needed one document, and
Oh yeah, right. Embed it directly into it.
Yeah, right on into it, and all sorts of other stupid reasons.
But over time, as web developers, we learn, how to make it more optimal. So tell us, okay, so your journey, you're freelancing. You're using these other web builders, and then what gets you to this point where you're at today? What are some of the other things we missed?
Well, let's see. I usually had a day job in addition to running my agency. So the agency stayed kind of small. I usually had one or two part-time employees who worked for me. Yes. And then I would basically just do my part before work. I'd get to my desk early, and then I'd do a little more during lunchtime, and then before bed, sometimes a little more. Okay. And then during the pandemic, I just said, what? I'd always worked on referrals. People would hear what I do and come to me to be a friend of a friend. And I said, you know what? Let's for the first time, I talked to my wife. Actually, it was a few years ago. I talked to my wife about how difficult being a business owner is to me, because I like to build websites. I like to design them and build them, and I like to fix bugs, and I like to fix things, and build things. I don't like to do my taxes or pay payroll or track inventory. I don't like any of that. Well, that's my wife's forte. So she's also really good at research. Yes. And so whenever it comes to anything research involved, so for example, we hold focus groups for our clients to figure out what their stakeholders' needs are. Yes. Or we do web traffic analyses where we just got to find out what's going wrong. Why aren't people clicking the buy now button? She has a doctorate degree, so she's obviously pretty literate in terms of research. So she just researches the heck out of the sites. Yeah, sort of the stuff
she's doing conversion rate optimization type stuff as well.
Exactly. And then she just tells me what to build, and I just build it. So, and then we have 3 part-timers also. So we have a really solid team who all are great designers and great builders. So
so let's go in depth. Okay, so what kind of systems are you building for your clients? Is it going to be the single page sites, web applications? What are you guys getting experience on right now?
Well, actually, things are going really well for us with ADA. So for years, our emphasis has been on accessibility or diversity, equity, inclusion. Well, equity means accessibility. We want people to be able to use, right. We want everybody to feel comfortable using. It's law now, so that's why we're suddenly so busy. We don't have to shove it down people's throats anymore. Now they have to if they don't want to get sued.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and people are getting sued big time. Now, if you're a big organization, you need to be sweating it. You need to be fixing your ADA. If you're, a liquor store, no, don't worry about it. Nobody's gonna, it's gonna take them the predatory lawyers a long time to get down to start bothering the coffee shops and the restaurants. But I mean,
Right.
for example,
So tell us a little bit about the predatory lawyers, because that's a little bit, that's a good story to hear too.
so there were a couple court decisions a couple years ago that said, okay, well, all the ADA laws that apply to public spaces in the physical world, such as like adding wheelchair ramps so people can get into buildings, well, now they apply to websites as well. Well, everybody had been neglecting ADA, issues on their website, accessibility issues. So if you have, for example, if you have a malformed hands, you might not be able to use a mouse. So you use the website using, fingers or some assistive device. So you need to be able to make sure that your website works that way. Most do not.
Yeah.
And my next door neighbor, this really was kind of enlightening because he was blind. His whole family was blind. He and his wife and his daughter. And so they're always using their cell phones, but they'd listen to them. They're
screen readers.
Using screen readers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And listening to him just kind of complain and kind of really, this is some years ago, that made a big convert out of me. I said, you know what? It's not much work to make it work for my neighbor,
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the bringing your website into ADA compliance, it takes work, but it's not a lot of work. It's not black magic. It's understanding the standards, and a lot of it, if you're hiring a good company like what Peter's Brain Jar, then you're gonna get out of the box a website that will be compliant, be available for screen readers
or fill of veracity.
Our fill of veracity, obviously, but we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Brain Jar. But yeah, you're gonna get that out of the box. And so tell us a little bit about the growth of what you guys been doing with Brain Jar. Some of the growing pains are gonna come up obviously in that, but you got a team of 5. You're working on what kind of projects and what are some of the growth that you guys see?
Well, I'd say probably most of our big clients are colleges or really other like huge businesses. I have a few NDAs signed, non-disclosure agreements, so I actually can't talk about a couple of our biggest clients.
Right.
But it's a governmental agency. It's another one's a very large food manufacturer that you definitely have in your house right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the other one's a governmental agency that you're definitely in a state that you're in right now. So.
Well, I'll tell you, government contracts are the way to go, man.
Yeah, but we find that they're good clients. We also take in small clients though. So we have a client. Yeah, at the moment we're helping a real estate agent build his pipeline through his website. We are actually working for another real estate agent about to start on his project, building a very customized app. So a lot of our websites are WordPress. If it calls for it, and very often it does. It's a great system.
Yes.
And then sometimes we revert to something more customized like React.
Oh yeah.
That's like our other fallback.
Necessary.
I would say if you're a really large client with a ton of people who are going to be who need to modify the content, so re-upload photos or change your hours, then I go with WordPress because not only is it fairly easy to use, especially compared to its competitor, in my opinion, Drupal and Joomla. But it's also so prevalent that if you're, say, an administrative assistant in a governmental agency and you need to change the hours of your particular office and you can't figure out where to start, well, you're probably going to find the answer by Googling it. Whereas other systems that might actually be a little bit more developer friendly, I think Drupal is a little bit friendlier for the developer, especially with all the WordPress, you kind of have to do a lot of unbuilding to rebuild sometimes, but Drupal, it's a little more minimal.
I'm gonna say Drupal. Well, last I remember of Drupal, maybe I haven't checked with the new version. I don't know what version. It's on 7 or what?
Yeah, 7 came out. It's a big improvement over 6.
Big improvement over 6. Okay, cool. It was always esoteric, Yeah. But we're talking from a developer perspective, but we really want to, from the client's perspective, what you say is better.
I think Drupal is not better. I think Drupal is more difficult from the client's perspective. I think from a developer's perspective,
Right.
because it's not as robust as WordPress.
Yes.
Sometimes you don't have to like unbuild things as much before you rebuild them, you know.
Okay.
But I still, you know, for clients, WordPress is the way to go, especially if you have a ton of, you know, if it's a client who needs some very specialized functionality and only one person's going to use it, I might lean toward Drupal. But that's actually honestly pretty rare because our clients usually have a lot of people who need to modify the content. And then React, if somebody needs something that's just like very specific and very customized. Yeah. So if somebody were to say, oh, let's build the Uber for dog walking, which is an idea that spontaneously emerges in so many people's minds for some reason.
I think I've seen a version of that app somewhere on the App Store.
I got like 2 or 3 people came to me with that idea like a number of years ago. Wow. A dog walking Uber. And then like I went, okay, well, I mean, that might be helpful. And then another person like a year later said, I want a dog walking Uber. And I thought, that's weird.
Wow.
Somebody said that. And then there came out a dog walking Uber.
I forget the name of it, but it was one that where, if you want to, I think it's Bark. Bark, or Wag or something like that. You're right. Yeah. You're right. So let me just ask you from a consumer's perspective, you would recommend any business, to, go with a WordPress website? Almost
always. Yeah.
Okay.
And even in the circumstance where I mentioned where if they need a lot of customization, there's only one user. I mean, like if the user's not super tech savvy, I'd probably still go with WordPress because they're still going to find it much easier to just Google the answer and find it because it's so prevalent. You can find all sorts online. Drupal, Joomla, you don't find as much online just by Googling.
And so with today's world, like content marketing and, content is king. I mean, like you're expected these days, if you really want to be heard, if you really want to be seen, you're expected to produce content regularly. And even if you produce content regularly, you may not be heard or seen immediately, So a system like WordPress is perfect for that, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It makes it easy to throw up, blogs all the time. Just makes it easy. Much easier than, the competitor systems.
Okay. All right, so tell us a little bit about the growing pains as you've operated and run your startup, Brain Jar. What's been some of the growing pains?
Oh, well, I'll tell you. Actually, I ran into a big growing pain at the beginning of the pandemic. Suddenly, I kind of got dogpiled on by clients. I had a comfortable workflow. I was working at a college as their web developer. Yeah. And I had a handful of clients and I did their projects while I was taking the train from Riverside to Orange County.
Yes.
And so it was perfectly manageable. But when the pandemic hit, I was home with my kids. My wife was home with our kids.
Oh yeah.
And then my clients, like they just came to me with about 5 to 10 times more than usual. And it was, and I can't say no. I'm kind of a sissy like that. So
bro, I'm gonna tell you, there was a surge of web development that happened, I believe, at the beginning of the pandemic because people needed to transition to online only. And okay, so that's the one thing. Huh? Can you talk about that? Tell us, what it means.
For a long time, a lot of businesses were kind of not neglecting their websites, but they didn't emphasize their importance. But then once they were, locked down and they couldn't have any kind of in-person interaction with people, then they realized, oh my gosh, the internet is really our just only window to humanity right now. Yeah. And so that's when they really started to try to like fix their websites, revamp them, make sure they're good to, presentable. They realized the importance of them.
I had a couple of live streaming clients who needed to get their, because they were like churches, you know what I mean? They needed to still have service because here in California, they shut down churches. Never would have saw that. But anyway, had to get them online and to get them live streamed, So yeah, that was one example.
For all my clients. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I got referrals left and right, asking for more work. So it's a good problem to have, but I and my 2 freelancers at the time just couldn't keep up. They were experiencing the same thing,
How did you guys handle that time? Like
I at a certain point, I did everything that was on my plate and I told everybody I was going on a sabbatical.
Oh, okay.
And I
Okay.
kept a few clients. I
Yes.
referred the rest out, and I just cut back dramatically, and it just for my own mental health.
So
And
did you
then
take that time to mastermind or to think about or
I
strategize or what?
so I kind of focused on real estate investment, which has been like a long kind of a side project of
Okay.
mine, but I
Okay.
decided to dive into it a little harder than I normally do. So
Yes.
I've for about a decade, I would do like purchase a beater up house, a beater upper, fixer
Oh
upper,
yeah.
and I fix it up,
Mm-hmm.
either by hand or have hiring help, and
Yes.
then I'd either like resell it or I'd rent it out or
Oh,
whatever.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. But over the pandemic, I decided to ramp it up. So we sold one of the ones we had, and we bought a fixed. Well, let me think. One, two, three. We did three houses and a duplex over the
Okay.
pandemic.
Okay.
And now and then
That's good. That's a good little workload.
yeah. Well, it was a couple years, so it
Okay.
actually was
Okay.
just I would do one a
Yeah.
year a lot of times.
Okay.
So it's really only like doubling it.
Right.
But I think I'm ready to rest on that for now because I did a
On
lot of
that
work
for now.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So then all of a sudden, recently you're back from the sabbatical. Tell us what's the new goals, short-term goals for maybe give us like the short-term goals that you have for, now that, when did you get back from sabbatical? Tell us about that.
It was only a few months back, less than a year
Okay.
ago.
Okay.
And I just decided, I'm gonna put the real estate stuff aside. My hands are tired. I do a lot of the plumbing and electrical myself, all the expensive stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
And then and so I'm just open to more clients now. So I'm reaching out and just taking on more clients. And you know what? It's not hard. It's not difficult to find new clients who need work on the
Right.
website, especially ones who need ADA help.
There's a lot.
I
There's
think
a lot of people out here.
people are aware that it's crucial at the moment, especially if you're a
Yeah.
big business. It's because you are going to get sued. LA City College has been sued. Like a big cereal maker has been sued. I mean, I can
Yeah.
go on. And motorcycle companies. I mean, everybody's getting sued, but the bigger companies are going to get sued first.
Yeah,
And then
that's true.
as soon as they make their websites bulletproof, then the predatory lawyers who are looking for stuff to sue, they're going to have to move down to like smaller businesses. So smaller ones are safe for now.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a couple of stories that I remember, hearing and reading some articles. I'm like, this is crazy. The predatory lawyers are serious, and it's an easy way for them to make money right now. They go find a non-compliant ADA website and boom,
Yeah.
especially if it's a bigger business.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for your next let's just say in the next 2 months, what are some of your short-term goals, Peter, with Brain Jar? Two short-term goals in the next 2 months. What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, at the moment, we're trying to reach out to people. So if
Yes.
if you're sort of like a communications or marketing manager for a company that's a decent size who needs help with their ADA compliance, or of course we do other things too. We can improve on-page SEO. We can research your website to see what might be going right, what might be going wrong. We can do a myriad of things like that. Then we're searching for larger clients like that.
Okay.
If you're a smaller client too, hey, we're happy to help you out too. That's we're happy for that. So just
Awesome.
taking in new clients.
All right, so that's one. You gotta give me two though. One more.
Ooh. Let me think. You know what? This has been on the back burner for a long time, and I'm really hoping to get to it. Is our own website sort of sucks. So
Getting that in order.
Yeah, I mean it's by far the worst website we've ever worked on.
Well, so you know what they say about the cobbler, or the shoemaker.
Yeah, the cobbler's children have no shoes. It's exactly that. We're too busy. We're too busy to work on our own website. So that's kind of embarrassing, but.
Well, man, I actually had kind of a similar issue going on with Fill of Veracity. I told you how I solved my problem recently. Maybe I'll just mention. Now, actually, I'll save it for another day.
Right on.
Tell us, Peter, about your future goals. 3 years. Where would you want to be in 3 years? Where would you want to be in 5? And then where would you want to be in 10?
I know this is simple, but it would just be awesome to make my part-timers full-timers, because you know, all three people who are doing work for me are just great.
Yeah.
One of them I know, you know, wants more hours.
Yeah.
And I just tell her, you know, I'll give you all the hours I can, you know, I can definitely
that
give you
I
all
can
the-
give you. Yeah. No, I know
and
how
try
that
hard.
is. Yeah.
More
no.
than anything, I'm hustling for them, to tell you the truth, because
That's a big, that's a good thing though, because, you know, like, you know, having them, you know, having the goal to get them to be full-time, that's a good goal. I like that.
Yeah, you know, I would love to just, you know, eventually one, because they're part-time, you know, so I'm not offering medical benefits and all that stuff, but I would love to get to the point where, you know, because we're a very small agency, you know, boutique, and you know, but I'd love to offer them the things that bigger companies do, you know, in medical insurance and things like that.
So that's 3 years. All right. What about 5?
So.
What about 5 years? What would you say Brain Jar would be in 5 years? I saw you producing content that you're pushing out online, giving education about around web development. Are you gonna develop that out more? Like, what do you want to see in 5 years from Brain Jar?
I would eventually like to be sort of a, like, you know, one of the larger agencies in the area. I just want to grow the agency. You know, it's a time tested model, right? I mean, it's nothing revolutionary. It's not a new app that's gonna walk your dog for you. It's, you know, it's a service, but it's a service that's in demand, and it's a business model that's reliable.
That's right.
And I just love, you know, as an investor especially, I love time-honored, proven models. Like that's why I deal with real estate. You know, I mean, people have needed places to rent, you know, for hundreds of years. It's just so time, and it's profitable. Time is proven, so I invest in it. Same thing with services like Brain Jars. Is, you know, I don't, you know, I mean, like, I've had ideas where, you know, it might work, something might work, but it's just building and fixing people's websites. It's something that I and my employees can do very well. Yes. And it will always be in demand. So so I just would like to just continue to grow the agency to serve our clients better, because I think we do things better than a lot of agencies I've seen. Yeah. You know, I've seen agencies, even not at a very cheap price, they'll slap together a silly website with tons of problems, and they don't seem to have the concern for QA that, you know, that we do, or, you know, accessibility that we do. Yeah. And so when we, you know, and I sometimes I do a Freedom of Information Act request for governmental, for like bids for government agencies. Government agencies, yeah. And I'll look at the proposals, and it's like it ranges in terms of price, but sometimes I see these ones that are, they'll like offer to build this gigantic website for like $4,000, and it's like that. Yeah, that clearly wouldn't even come close to covering my employees' time. That's really, that's tough, man. See, at one point you got to say, I need to be, you know, in the bidding, you know, on a level good enough to keep everyone comfortable, you know, and meeting your basic needs is one level. And then, you know, if you bid it too cheap, like, I would tell you, people who know, and they, you know, they understand the way business works, if you're too cheap, they're going to eliminate you from the running. Well, they know that you're just, you know, hiring someone overseas to slap it together. Yeah. And, you know, and it's the whole slapping. Actually, honestly, that's where I get a ton of the Brain Jar gets a ton of their clients, is they hire somebody to slap something together. Yeah. And then their performance, it's taken 7 seconds for their page to load. And, you know, they're getting, you know, they have somebody run a diagnostic on the ADA compliance, and they're getting like a 50%, which is absolutely going to get you sued. Yeah. And and then they have to come find somebody who actually takes an interest in the quality, you know, and spends time on it and masters it, polishes it. Right, so everything we produce, it's polished. So love it. I won't take the client who wants, you know, who just wants something slapshot. Yes. So that's in 5 years. So 5 years, keep growing the company, be one of the larger ones here in the region. 10 years. We always like to ask 10 years because we just want you to plant your flag, you know? I know some people have detailed 10-year plans, but what would you say at 10 years? I think 10 years, I would, you know, just keep growing Brain Jar. But in my personal life, I like the idea of diversification. So I would, you know, my focus is not only on the Brain Jar, the agency, my wife, my agency. but it's also on WP Code Camp, which is our boot camp,
Okay.
coding boot camp.
Okay.
And I'd like to continue to offer more, a more robust program for that, offer it to
Yeah.
more students,
Yeah.
maybe even start in 2 different locations, which would be kind of cool. And
Mm.
then also our real estate portfolio, we're just continuing to invest.
that.
So yeah,
Mm.
and one man's attention can only go so many ways, but I think
That's true.
Yeah, but I like the idea of having eggs in several baskets.
Yeah,
So,
well, you already got the experience on management and hiring. So obviously, I would imagine that you're hiring more people, you're building out teams or something like that more, right? As you continue to grow.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a safe assessment.
that's my mind. That's what my mind would think about. But I really appreciate your time coming on the Founders Podcast. Peter, please give us where people can find you at. Actually, if there's something before that you want to, is there anything else you want to add to that maybe I didn't ask as far as questions are concerned?
No, thank you so much for doing this, Various. I know it takes time out of your life and you're putting your heart and soul into it. We all appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you for coming on, and I appreciate everyone for watching. It takes a village, man. We gotta look. I say this: if we don't put value into our own region, like if we can't see the value that's already beneath our nose and invest into our region, then like moving to another region is not going to help.
No.
So invest in your region the way that you can. But tell us, where can people find you, Peter?
Sure, they can find Brain Jar at brainjar.net. You can look up WP Code Camp at wpcodecamp.org. And you can find my real estate investments physically here and there all over the country. So.
Awesome.
But
Awesome.
if you ever want advice about real estate investing, hit me up on Instagram at either one of those Instagram accounts, which you can find by just searching for Brain Jar or WP Code Camp.
Okay, so you also run a real estate investing meetup too, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
look,
that's critical. So we have actually I run a JavaScript meetup. So that's
okay.
JavaScript.
JavaScript. Yes.
And then Critical Thinkers in Real Estate is
Critical Thinkers in Real Estate.
Yeah, and those are free. They're just kind of for fun, for networking. So if you're interested in either real estate or front end development, I'd love to have you to either of those meetups.
I can't say enough good things about Peter because he has actually been so instrumental in the success of the WordPress meetup group. He's been a huge part of what we're doing with the word camps, with our conferences and everything like that. And so I'm always glad to partner up with him for anything, and even bring him on the podcast to let you guys get an opportunity to hear about his business. So contact Peter, get in contact with him on Instagram. If you need a new website, if you need ADA compliance, working on your website, get in contact with Brain Jar. Thank you for watching today, Peter. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we publish this podcast twice per week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you would like to be on the Founders Podcast, just go to pod.startempirewire.com. We look forward to seeing you at one of our public events. And if you haven't done all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, comment, do it all. Share with 2 or 3 people. And we'll be back with you on the next episode of the Founders Podcast. Peace.